This episode is brought to you by Competitive Edge Research and Communication. Competitive Edge Research and Communication is San Diego's premier polling firm dedicated to quality research since 1987. John Nienstedt, president of Competitive Edge, proudly supports Voice of San Diego and other local civic organizations. Welcome to the Voice of San Diego podcast, where we make sense of local politics, schools, housing, public safety, the civic issues that impact the life of a San Diego resident. We break it down so you can understand it and make educated decisions.
Everything that goes into our investigative reporting, the journalists, public records requests, the data crunching, and this very show depends on the support of people like you because we're a nonprofit news organization. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to those of you listening on News Radio 600 Kogo. My name is Scott Lewis, and I'm here with my friend Andrew Keatts.
What's up, my man?
What's up, brother?
Not a lot, buddy.
So it helps me sometimes, as we were discussing, to remember that when I'm in your world, you are probably or have a good chance of being wrong. And that,
a chance. I don't know about good.
Like you have a lot of really passionate hot takes, and it just helps to remember that you're wrong.
Sometimes.
About, like, for instance, the Orioles are going to go to the playoffs. You were wrong about them being bad.
They're very bad.
And
there's a little preview of my latest take.
And you were wrong about the
Orioles
Republican health care bill going through. Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. You might be getting ahead of yourself on both of these fronts.
So then there was a hot take you put up today that said that baby metal is the best music ever.
Yeah, so Adriana Haldiz, who works here at Voice of San Diego and is my window into today's youth, said the nicest thing anyone has said to me in this office before. She said, "Have you listened to baby metal?" And I said, "No." And she said, "I was listening to it last night and I thought Andy Keatts would like this." And I don't know why she had that thought, but I listened to it and my first thought was, I do like this. This is very good.
Okay, so a lot of us, when we saw that tweet,
thought
you were talking about like metal for like babies, or like babies doing like baby songs that were like in the metal style or something, right?
Did you think that? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
And so then we've decided to look at it, and I have to admit,
it's very compelling.
It's
very compelling.
So this baby metal,
yeah.
This is their smash hit, "Gimme Chocolate."
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Give me chocolate.
Look, so far, so good, right?
So you have to picture, you got to look this up. You have to picture what's going on here. There's three Japanese girls just jamming.
Yeah.
But like dancing, like synchronized.
It's very compelling pop music.
All right, I'm in, dude. You were right.
Yeah, baby metal.
Baby metal.
I just don't know what else you need, but that isn't in that. What else is out there that hasn't found its way into that satisfies whatever you're looking for?
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Adriana.
See, sometimes I'm right, too.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And even in this case, it's really Adriana
I just think
who's
it's
right
dangerous to be folks out there.
Yeah.
Andy has a very compelling, often provocative take on life, but you got to pull yourself out sometimes because he's wrong. Except when he's right.
It's part of doing business.
Yeah.
You gotta come hard, and that with that comes being wrong, 40% of the time.
Well, all right. Let's talk about this week's big news.
Yeah, this is like a big week for us.
This is the so-called Upland ruling at the California Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And seems like it may have changed local politics forever.
Yeah, you're a nerd if you texted someone this week, Upland ? And that launched a conversation.
All right, let's get into this. So first, the basics. The basics of California law is that if you want a special or a tax for local government, for any government agency, you have to have a vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't say where the money's going to go, you just need a majority vote. If you do say where the money's going to go, you need a special 2/3 vote.
Yes.
Right? So it seems a little backwards because it's like it should be easier to pass a tax where you're committed to where you're going to spend it.
Yes, right.
But it's not, and it's precisely that way because they want to make it as hard as possible, or they wanted to make it as hard as possible to raise taxes.
Yes.
All right. So the basics of the Upland case was that there was a cannabis cooperative in Upland that wanted to legalize medical marijuana facilities in the city of Upland. So they put together an initiative. And the initiative went to the city, and the city certified. But then they said, wait a second, this has a $75,000 permit for use to become a medical marijuana facility.
That's a tax.
And that's a tax. And because it's a tax, it has to go on to a regular election. Can't be a special election. These guys wanted a special election, so they sue. The trial court says you're wrong, goes next step to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeals says something just absolutely fascinating.
And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't fundamentally what the folks from the marijuana cooperative were requesting, or it was
No,
what the appeals court ruled.
Right. So exactly, it was a little aside from that.
Yeah.
They wanted the court to come back and say, no, you have to have a special election.
Yeah, right.
This isn't a tax.
That was their only request. Really.
Yeah, exactly. But then the Court of Appeal said something shocking. Okay, this law about there needing 2/3 vote for a special election and a simple majority for a general is in the Constitution, and it's called Article 13C, Section 2 of the Constitution. And that court said, we conclude that Article 13C, Section 2 does not apply to this initiative. Article 3, Sections 1 and 2 refer to taxes imposed by local government. Article 13C is silent as to taxes imposed by initiative. So they were making a distinction in there that says that this only applies to local governments trying to raise taxes, and that citizens who might get together and put something on the ballot, like this medical marijuana initiative, are doing so themselves and aren't subject to that discussion. So we don't even need to decide whether this is a tax or not. It's not a part of that Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that had enormous significance to a lot of people around the state because there's that's the other part of the California Constitution. That part of it says no local government may impose, extend, or increase any special tax until that tax is submitted to the electorate and approved by 2/3 vote. That's the other part of that. And so if that 2/3 vote requirement does not apply to citizens' initiatives, that means a citizens' initiative could raise taxes with just a simple majority. So rather significant ruling, right?
Quite significant.
The Supreme Court was asked to hear this case. They agreed to, and they immediately put it on hold, much to the chagrin of the San Diego Chargers, for instance, who were hoping that might make the immediate case that they only needed a simple majority for their tax increase. Turned out not to matter because they only got 43%.
Yeah.
But there were several tax increases over the last decade that got well more than 50% of the vote, but not 2/3.
Yeah, just last year, Measure A by Sandag.
Yeah, Measure A, half-cent sales tax to increase or to support.
Also a number
growth.
of tax increases that didn't even clear 50, like, what was it, Prop D, the city of San Diego's?
Well, yeah, there's the one I like to think about is it was in 2010, a parcel tax that San Diego Unified School District wanted to put on everybody's property, and it needed 2/3. It got like 50.8%. So that kind of thing, if it was under like this rule and put forward by a citizens initiative, would actually be passed. And so the consequences are enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason that San Diego had so much trouble building a stadium is because of this rule.
Yeah, we've probably talked this to death during the Chargers stadium discussion, but to reiterate, Indianapolis, Denver, Dallas, all of these places raised taxes with votes of the people that, had they been in California, would not have passed.
Yeah. And there's also a common sort of thread in San Diego politics that San Diego voters are anti-tax. they're not any more anti-tax than these other places.
They just have a higher bar to clear.
Yeah, they have that 2/3 requirement. So
now, you could make the case that by virtue of these
Sure.
measures being in place is an expression of their anti-tax,
yeah, no doubt. It's just not as clear as them getting knocked down. Like everybody talks about the fire protection tax from 2008.
Right after a major fire, this
parcel tax
was put forward that would have done, among other things, made it easier to prevent fires in the future.
Yeah, it would have created a county fire department and other things. And they often point to that and say, look, they even rejected a tax on fire protection right after a gigantic fire. That's how anti-tax they are. Well, it got like 65% of the vote. I mean, it came really close. And a solid, like you would say 65%, mandate on something is pretty serious. Like a president would never get that close to a vote.
Right.
And so that's a big chunk, but it's not 2/3. That's how big the 2/3 is. And so this ruling came out Monday that said that was right. The Court of Appeal was right.
Mm-hmm.
And they affirmed it. And just basically said that the local governments are completely distinct from citizens' initiatives.
Yeah.
Now, there was a section, and I'm going to bring this up.
Okay.
There was a section at the very end of the ruling, at page 20, that talks about one section of this 13C that says voters must approve the tax by 2/3 vote, and that constitutes a higher vote requirement, and that the voters explicitly imposed a procedural 2/3 vote requirement on themselves in that section is evidence that they did not implicitly impose a procedural timing requirement in subdivision B. Now, a lot of people are reading that as voters imposing a procedural 2/3 vote on themselves as meaning like the court still held back from that sweeping ruling and said this does not apply to the 2/3 part.
Right.
And there's a lot of discussion going back and forth about this right now.
A lot of overeducated people parsing that meaning.
Yeah, because a lot of people are trying to decide, are we going to act on this and try to get a vote passed? Yeah. So it seems pretty clear that this will somehow get tested or clarified.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of eagerness to understand exactly what the rules are.
Right, because let's talk about the consequences from this.
Yeah, sure.
You made a good point about the mayor, if this is real, having gotten kind of saved by the city council. What did you mean?
So the mayor this summer tried to put forward his hotel tax increase that would have paid for a convention center expansion, some homelessness stuff, and some infrastructure stuff.
Right.
The city council voted not to put that on the ballot. Had they put it on the ballot, it would have gone on the ballot requiring a 66% threshold because it was an action of the city government.
Right.
If you take that same proposal, the same written proposal, and now an outside group fundraises, then collects signatures, qualifies it for the ballot, and it goes on the ballot on the same election, but originating from an outside government source, it could now pass at 50% instead of 66%, making its chances of actually going into effect substantially higher. And if this is the policy that you'd like to see happen, then not only are you still alive, but you're still alive with a far more viable path to success than you ever had during the summer when you ended up being thwarted by the Democratic City Council in the first place.
Right. So that's part of trying to understand the consequences of this. Is
likewise at that same time there was this outside progressive group talking about how they were already getting their ducks in a row because they wanted to put up a measure that would include new tax revenue for homelessness and affordable housing on the 2018 ballot, and they were discussing going through the city council to do that. Well, it would become very clear at this point that you wouldn't, as an outside group, want to go through the city council. You would have every reason to want to do it yourself. You could do it with the support and the help of the city council. They could endorse it and say this is a good idea. They could help you fundraise. They could lead the charge and go do press conferences for it. They could do everything. They just can't vote on it to put it on the ballot in the first place. And so now that might reasonably happen, assuming that this ruling means what most people think it means, and that they have enough money and still have the wherewithal to pursue that idea.
All kinds of things. Unions and environmentalists could get together to pass a tax to do trolley expansion.
Yeah.
The mind is kind of boggled by how much could happen if special interests got together and funded signature gatherers.
Yes.
And this is my other point on this. Signature gatherers just got, if this is true, another feather in their cap. I mean, this is a group that's extremely powerful now, at least the people that fund them.
Yeah.
Because they can reject projects, they can stop laws like minimum wage and marijuana regulations and all kinds of things. They can stop projects. They can get projects advanced a lot faster. If you have a big housing development and you have enough money to fund signature gatherers, you might consider doing that instead of trying to get permits at City Hall.
Yeah.
I mean, and now they can potentially raise taxes easier than the city council itself.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a powerful, maybe not branch of government, as I've said, but like it's a powerful arm of civic power.
The only dissent I would have from your perspective is that the signature gatherers don't actually make any decisions.
Well, yeah, that's shorthand for that, whatever that is. What would you call it?
The outside special interests. It's the group of people who has access to money and an agenda to pursue that decides, well, let's go hire a horde of signature gatherers.
Yeah, so if we talk about the city council or the city of San Diego, right?
Sure.
City of San Diego has courts.
Yeah.
It has the mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the city attorney within the city,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the city council,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like media,
Yeah.
and then I think like you got to put
I would just call them like third party groups.
Okay. All right. Well, but there's
And
something
a
about
tool that they use is
the tools
signature
for
gatherers.
them have gotten more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
The tools for them have gotten more potent,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and this is one remarkable instance.
So I've got another angle. Feel free to just shoot down if you think this is too in the weeds to get into. There's another San Diego related ballot measure discussion that it's hard to grok how it ties in, but it does seem to tie in. This is the Prop B ruling that is now going before the Supreme Court. Do you want to try to thread this needle, or should we save this for another day?
I think it's fine to think about. So that argument is that this was pension reform, right?
Yeah.
A group of citizens got together to say that the future city employees should not get pensions, and we should cap, salaries where they're at to try to save money.
Mm-hmm.
A few other things like that, right? They should get a 401k instead of a guaranteed pension. The Mayor Jerry Sanders at the time embraced this effort, was a part of it, helped construct the initiative.
Yeah.
And
helped write the initiative.
And then it went forward and became law.
Yeah.
Now, he was sued by the Municipal Employees Association, who argued that he had a legal responsibility as the manager of the city to talk to the union first before making a change to their workplace terms.
Yeah.
And that's the Brown Act, it's called, the Miles Milius Brown Act, the discussion of things like that. He makes, and Michael Zucchet from the Municipal Employees Association makes the point that had he talked to us, we might have come up with a compromise as we had before, rather than having this go to the ballot. And so they broke the law.
And what they had always alleged was that wasn't Mayor Sanders leading that initiative. That was Citizen Sanders. That was that was Jerry Sanders acting in his independent capacity, not as the mayor.
Right.
And therefore, it falls not within his purview as the chief negotiator of the city. So those are the terms that are up for debate now at the Supreme Court, which we'll know the outcome of that in about 2 years. But it's interesting because there's some overlap here in these two things, which is, on one hand, you have an opportunity to easily raise taxes by this other mechanism if you can take the effort out of the city council and put it into the hands of a citizens group.
Yeah.
And then the relationship is, this other ruling now says, well, you have to be actually a citizens group to some extent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I might be overgeneralizing from the specific terms of that debate, but like, they're looking at whether it is fair for the mayor or potentially later a city council member to use this process to do something that they could otherwise do through their official purview as the city government.
I think the only difference is that in labor law, there's an actual rule about that.
Right.
And in this case, I'm not sure what the problem would be for a mayor or city council member to meet with an outside group and say, you should do this plan, unless this sort of ruling was clarified to mean that action meant that it was the government
doing it,
imposing it or doing it,
and that
therefore
could be
has a higher standard.
And that could be a novel argument that is made at some point down the road if all of these other things hold up in the meantime.
I think the biggest issue is just, look, this concept is getting solidified that local government and restrictions in the Constitution on what they can do to raise taxes is different than citizens, that citizens are not their government.
Right.
And there's a stand being taken by the courts to say that's different, and we hold this power of the citizenry to be separate and unimpingible, like you can't mess with it. And so that's just fascinating. And I think it does have consequences in all these areas. But in particular, this, which would be crazy and would have enormous consequences. People were across the country were noticing how big a deal this would be.
That's right.
All right, stay tuned. We are going to be talking about, we have a fact check this week.
I also did an interview with Steve Govett. He's the chairman, the president of the new professional sports team in San Diego, the National Lacrosse League, San Diego. They don't have a name yet, but
we thought Groms would be a good name.
Yeah. So
the San Diego Groms.
So I should be up front. I'm a lacrosse fan. I played lacrosse growing up. I used to love indoor lacrosse professional league in Baltimore. So we had a good talk about this new team, and I think people are going to like it.
All right, so if you're on the podcast, stay tuned for that. The Hero and Goat fact check, a couple of interesting tidbits about water. But first, I also want to say we're in the middle of a 5-day push for donations. If you care about anything we do to try to explain or investigate San Diego politics, policies, and all this stuff, please consider donating. Go to voiceofsandiego.org/donate. Again, that's voiceofsandiego.org/donate. If you care about this or want us to keep going and thriving, really appreciate your support. So the show has been also produced in partnership with our friends and partners at News Radio 600 Go-Go.
Hey, Kinsey here with a short sponsored interview brought to you by Downtown San Diego Partnership. Keith Jones is the managing principal and partner at Ace Parking, a company that's grown from a small San Diego family business into one of the nation's premier parking companies. So Keith, you take a lot of pride in being based here in San Diego.
You know, as being a fourth-generation San Diegan, third-generation business owner, I'm grateful to be part of the fabric of the community. We have over 2,300 different employees and team members that we employ within the county of San Diego, and I look at my job as being of service to both my team members and my employees and the customers that hire us and park with us. So I look at every day of how I can be a servant leader for both my organization and both the city that I get to call home.
Catch the rest of this sponsored interview with San Diego Downtown Partnership member Ace Parking at the end of the show.
All right, we're back. We wanted to talk about a couple of stories Rai Rivard has done lately. Been on a fire, a little roll.
Mm-hmm.
Rai Rivard covers water power and sort of life in San Diego as far as like actual life, biology. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not like
it's
lifestyle.
Awesome title, though. Life reporter.
So this just went up on Thursday. In jarring contrast to conditions during the drought, the San Diego County Water Authority, is actually trying to drive up demand for its water. So people stopped using as much water because there was a drought and everybody was like, stop using water.
Yeah.
So they did.
Yes.
Well, the water is sitting in the pipes too long, which is bad. And they're afraid that not only will that have to be retreated, but they'll have to dump it into reservoirs and where it'll have to be retreated again.
Expensive process, not a especially beneficial process.
Yeah, you don't want to take good water and put it back in. It's just, but they have too much water.
Right.
This is yet another chapter in the weird saga of San Diego has too much water.
Yeah.
Part of the reason we have too much water, this is the second story Rye did, is that we put up this desalination plant in Carlsbad. I think of it really helps me to think of the logic of the desal plant as apocalyptic preparation. Like
Right.
this is our straw in the ocean if everything falls apart. It's not going to serve everybody, but serves 7 to 10. We can get 7 to 10%. We can get other sources cobbled together. We'll be all right.
Yeah, it is interesting because we've otherwise done no apocalypse preparation in
Right,
town. But
right. Well, the decentralization of the power grid is part of that, maybe.
okay,
Like everybody's solar panels and microgrids
sure,
and stuff.
okay, you're right. Fair enough.
So if we get the water set, we're all done. We can just cut off.
Yeah.
Anyway, the desal plant has very expensive water. And the premise is that over time, the other sources of water that we import from far away,
They'll get more expensive.
and thus there'll be a tipping point or a cross where this water is not so bad. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that we put it in motion, right? That's
sure.
the point. That's the argument.
Yeah.
But Rye discovered that, and this is supposed to be really like reliable, right? They're gushing. This isn't something that.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that you've not mentioned necessarily is that like one of the main selling points was reliability.
Yeah, the ocean's there.
And local reliability. That we
Yeah.
get most of our water from outside San Diego County. And in the event that something went terribly wrong, a big earthquake, some sort of political instability outside of our borders, we would have no way to protect ourselves, and that this is a reliable local source.
Reliable.
Yeah.
Over the last year, though, the privately owned plant has failed to deliver 18% of the water the San Diego County Water Authority ordered. Now, when he pitched this story originally, I'm like, it better be significant.
Yeah.
Like, it should be, like, I don't want to just
Miss it in the
2% or
margin of
whatever.
error.
Yeah. No, this is 18. 18% is not nothing.
Yeah.
And get this, during the same period, there were 46 days when it delivered no water at all.
Not.
In particular, in April, the plant shut down when an algal bloom.
Yeah. Well, that was well pronounced.
Thanks. During boom along the coast soured the water. And that was a result of rain. There was so much rain and runoff that they had
It
this
was
algae.
yeah, okay.
And so we had this weird situation where we were getting all this free water from the sky,
Which
made the expensive water hard to get.
right.
This is the water
All
world.
makes
So we have too much water because of the drought.
yes.
We have
And when it rains, our ability to generate water goes completely null.
right, and because of all
From
this,
that one source, don't email me. I know that we capture rainwater to some extent. It's different thing.
email him still because we hate him. Then finally, this other thing came up. Right, did this battle that the Water Authority has with the Metropolitan Water District, which is at the heart of all of this. We don't want to depend on this giant agency called the Metropolitan Water District for our water.
Yeah.
And so this whole tension has gotten so heated
Yes.
that they have literally started talking about perhaps building a pipeline from San Diego to the Colorado River, the All-American Canal.
On their own.
On their own.
Yeah.
Because we rely on Metropolitan Water District's pipeline and canals, and maybe we should just put our own straw into the Colorado.
And this is like a $5 billion project, give or take.
It'd be
There's
a
like
lot.
a study on it. Yeah.
It'd
It's
be a lot. I mean,
Uh,
they'd have to drill a tunnel from here to like El Centro.
Right.
Or, not necessarily, but like that's a big deal. Remember the Sunrise Power Link? It was hugely controversial, and that was power lines basically in the same direction.
Yeah.
Like,
These
this
things
would
are
be
impractical.
Yeah, but that's what we're kind of getting in like water crazyville here.
Water is one of the most counterintuitive areas of public policy.
So, a lot to follow. Go to voiceofsandiego.org and check out Rise stories on that. We have a fact check this week. So, there's a couple of home sharing services, right? Airbnb's well known.
It's the famous one.
We had Airbnb's VP on this show not too long ago. Well, there's another one called HomeAway,
Mm-hmm.
and HomeAway was freaked out, and they sent out to all of their users in San Diego, all the people that use the service, notice that said this, quote, On Wednesday, August 30th, Councilmember Barbara Bree will host a town hall in La Jolla to discuss her proposed ordinance that would outright ban whole home short-term rental units in single-family neighborhoods. Outright ban whole home short-term vacation rentals in single-family neighborhoods. And we looked into that, and it was... Lisa pulled a huckster propaganda.
Uncommon. we don't use a lot of huckster propaganda.
That's our worst rating. It's an outright. It basically means that not only was it wrong, but the people who said it should have known that it was wrong.
Yeah.
As close as we can come to say it is a lie.
Yeah.
So Barbara Bree's proposal is basically that all these whole home people who want to rent their whole homes out need to get a permit, and the permit would allow them to do that for up to 90 days a year. Right. And they would have to prove that they live at that house in order to do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty restrictive. I mean, if you're renting out a house all year, that would change that. But if you live at your house and you want to go to Europe for the summer and you rent it out, you could do that. So it's wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you could still do it. The upshot of it here is that it wouldn't be an outright ban. Now, it would be considerably limited from where it is today.
Right.
That would be a fair thing to say. It might be considerably limited from what some people bought homes assuming that they had an ability to do. That would be another true statement. One thing it isn't, though, is an outright ban. Because 90 days is more than zero.
It is true.
Yeah.
Now, I actually think that her proposal is kind of news itself, that she would go that far rather than pursue an outright ban. I'm sure there's people who just want the outright ban. We asked HomeAway spokesman Philip Minardi about why they said that it was an outright ban. He says, in the final analysis, the majority of San Diego's vacation rentals rent out their homes for longer than 90 days. So while this provision appears reasonable, the onerous limits amount to a de facto ban for the majority of HomeAway and VRBO.
All right. So there's a clever little turn of phrase in there that in the final analysis, the majority, therefore de facto ban. We asked him for the numbers there.
Okay.
Do you know how many rent out for more than 90 days?
52%.
52%. Now, it is a majority. Truth in advertising. It is more than 50%.
I love this fact check. It's just the classic, like, how far they'll go. All right. Good job.
Yeah.
52% is a majority.
It's more than half. Also, not zero. Or not 100, I should say. Yeah.
Our hero of the week. All right, the city sent a contingent of firefighters to Houston. Just all the people that have stepped up to help in Houston, your heroes. And it's been nice to see some of the images of people stepping up and helping. There's a lot to be done to criticize or analyze what happened. Wait, do you have any insights? You studied Houston a lot about the planning and stuff there to think about? Or should
I don't have a great deal of insight except to remind people that this is a real city with real people and shouldn't be too flippantly used as in furtherance of the political opinions you already believed.
I will ask you to do this, though. You made a good point about how big the flood discussions are there.
Yeah, it is the most common public affairs discussion point in that city all the time.
It's not as though they weren't thinking about this.
They think about it all the time.
So the way that we might think about water or even something bigger, the Chargers.
Yeah. So like and that was important to me when on Saturday and Sunday people were criticizing Mayor Sylvester Turner for his instructions not to flee, not to evacuate, instead to hunker down if you were in a safe position, was an easy Monday morning quarterbacking. And it was just so frustrating to think that people thought he said that without some set of ideas and information guiding that statement. And it was made because people have died in botched evacuations in that city before, and they have adjusted by recognizing that the important thing to do is to evacuate people in very specific areas or very specific types of people that are especially in danger, and not the whole city. And it's just not an obscure talking point. This is a thing that they're very well aware of all the time.
Yeah. Were you around when Aguirre wanted to evacuate the entire city.
I have heard the tales.
Going to Yuma.
Going to
Wanted
Yuma.
to get us to Yuma. I'm glad we didn't. Our goat of the week.
You lose! Good day, sir!
This goes collectively to the city and the county of San Diego, who have, back in June, settled on one part of their response to this still growing hepatitis A outbreak in San Diego, and that is specifically concentrated on San Diego's homeless population. That what they needed was hand washing stations, and they needed to deploy these temporary hand washing stations because poor hygiene is so central to the spread of this virus. And yet it is now September, and these hand washing stations have essentially been completely unable to be deployed. And the reasons are, frankly, just in the face of an emergency, uncompelling. The lack of ability to get permits and poor coordination between public agencies. And as reasonable as you think those should be, I think when 15 people have died on the streets of a major American city based on a disease that is most prevalent in third world conditions, just figure it out.
Yeah, well, declare a state of emergency and just get stuff done.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. And I think there's some kind of reluctance to that I don't understand yet.
I mean, there was Lisa Alverstedt in a story on this had an email from MTS, an MTS public safety official, whose concern when asked to put one of these hand washing stations at a trolley stop right in the middle of this area was, well, if we do that, then people will shower in it and they'll brush their teeth in it, they'll wash their dishes in it. It's like, yes, if we put it there to save their lives, they'll also use it.
Well, I think
that's
not what he's hinting at is what we see everywhere, which is this reluctance to endorse the homeless experience with infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like there's this idea that if we just don't give bathrooms and washing stations and permanence, it'll still be temporary.
Right.
And I understand that. It's an instinct I understand.
It also is going on years now.
Yeah, and in the lack of other alternatives, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So that framing needs to be just dealt with. And hepatitis A is like a classic sort of monster that doesn't fit our rules.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Who's this guy you interviewed?
Steve Govett. He's the president of NLL San Diego, the as yet named or the to be named professional indoor lacrosse league team that just expanded into San Diego. They're going to play at the Valley View Casino Center starting in 2018. We talked about the league, why he chose San Diego. Yeah, I think people will enjoy it.
Does he know more about lacrosse than you?
Yeah, he very much does. He played professionally in this league and has been a GM in this league and an executive in this league. He knows quite a bit about
inside joke because Andy had a previous misconception about that.
I don't.
All right, let's see that.
And now we are joined in the great Voice of San Diego podcast studio by Steve Govett. Steve Govett is the president of San Diego Professional Lacrosse. San Diego Lacrosse?
San Diego Lacrosse, National Lacrosse League.
San Diego Lacrosse from the National Lacrosse League. This is the new franchise in San Diego, which is a box lacrosse professional team going to play at Valley View Casino Center beginning in 2018.
Yeah, November of 2018.
November of 2018. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm interested in a little bit in how long it took for this to come together, when the roots of this were. When did you guys start putting this play together?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting story from a background perspective with my background for the last 15 years in the National Lacrosse League. Mm-hmm. Actually, this is my 25th year in the National Lacrosse League, but my last 15 years have been with Kroenke Sports in Denver, Colorado. Okay. And it's been a labor of love. It was fantastic. The Colorado Mammoth was an awesome experience. And so throughout the process of building that league and working within the context of Kroenke Sports to build the National Lacrosse League, we've looked as a league at a number of markets, and expansion is kind of at the forefront. The trajectory of our commercial platform is pretty significant right now, and it's exciting, and things are moving quickly. So the league is looking at a lot of markets. So San Diego has been an interesting market for a lot of people because of the growth of the game. Obviously,
the growth of the game in general, or the growth of the game in San Diego?
Growth of the game in general, but the growth of the game in San Diego itself. I think there's a youth-based movement which ultimately, grows from a grassroots level up into post-collegiate and collegiate club and high school and all the stuff that's going on. So a lot of great, movement for the game. And we kind of, as a league, have kept our finger on the pulse of every market, trying to figure out where the hot buttons or hotbeds are starting to emerge. San Diego has kind of been on that radar for a while. LA presents some interesting challenges just because of the availability of dates in any of the buildings in LA. So LA becomes a challenging market, not to mention that there's just a ton of noise up there. So next best, market, and not to suggest that San Diego is the second best market here, but as we started to look at it, the league, started to progress the thought that, hey, you know what, West Coast market, growing the footprint of the game, gaining critical mass across North America makes a ton of sense. And so targeting this market made sense. So I started connecting to Joe Tai, our owner, probably early on in this year, talking about the possibility of him purchasing a National Lacrosse League team and engaging in pro sports. He's a huge benefactor for the representative teams of Hong Kong and Taiwan in the FIL, which is Federation of International Lacrosse. And so he was known in the lacrosse
He's
world. A lacrosse guy. Went to Yale, loves the game.
Played ball at Yale, right?
He played ball at Yale and played at the Lawrenceville School in New Jersey. So he's very familiar with the game of lacrosse, not maybe so familiar with indoor lacrosse and box lacrosse, but has a passion for the sport, wants to see it grow. And I think his passion, and so we pitched the San Diego concept to him. Valley View Casino Center is a very interesting place because obviously AHL is doing really well there with the Gulls.
San Diego Soccer's been there for a long time.
Soccer's been there for a long time and have done pretty well in the indoor environment. But you have a building that's kind of perfect for the National Lacrosse League in a 14,000 seat building, as opposed to, maybe a 19 or 18,000 seat building where you got maybe
some upper decks that
seats.
are empty.
So we can create an intimate environment and create the show that is the National Lacrosse League. And because you've been to a ton of games in Baltimore and Philadelphia and kind of the traditional markets in our league, that we can fill a building and create this amazing entertainment environment.
So that's one thing I happen to be from Baltimore. I've been to a lot of games for this league, and one thing that I think maybe people locally don't know immediately, they know lacrosse as a secondary sport, and maybe they only know of it as a field game. The even indoor feels something other, even secondary to the secondary sport to them. I don't think people recognize how exciting indoor lacrosse games can be. Professional indoor lacrosse games. I mean, you go to I learned before we started taping that you played for the Philadelphia Wings in the early 90s, which is when I was attending what you guys used to be called Major Indoor Lacrosse League games. And those games were electric. I had friends who didn't play lacrosse, didn't care about lacrosse, who would happily go to those games because it's just a fun spectator sport. It really is.
Well, I think you capsulized it probably better than most people, and certainly as the best interviewer in this market so far that understands our game and has seen the game in its current form. It is electric, and that's really the environment we need to create. And so as we kind of went through where we should go, certainly the understanding that the Chargers were leaving and there was a bit of a void, but that's not the main reason. I don't want to pretend that the Chargers are leaving and we're coming here to fill the void. We're not going to fill the void of the NFL. We're just not. Yeah. But that being said, we're great, affordable entertainment. And I think there's probably a lot of people, your listeners, and a lot of people in this community and in this market that are going, lacrosse, why would I go to a lacrosse game? This is just, I would never go. And I think you're going to have a lot of lacrosse people that engage quickly on this, and they're going to be super excited. And we're super excited to have them and fulfill, the West Coast opportunity for them to see professional lacrosse and see a lot of great players. I mean, bringing some of the best players of the game to, the Thompson brothers, and the list goes on and on of wonderful players that people are going to see come to, the Valley View Casino Center. So the lacrosse community will be, that scratch will be itched for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in order for us to be successful, we have to get out of that box and say that lacrosse is the only consumer set that we're going to go after. And I think personally, if we don't go outside that, I was going to say box, but that would be somewhat cliche.
A bit of a double entendre,
right?
yeah.
So if we don't get out of that skill set and introduce the game to new people and engage with a brand new market of people and show them that, this is fun entertainment. This is entertainment that you can go on a Saturday night for an inexpensive ticket, bring your family, walk in for family of 4, pay $100 for tickets, and then walk out and you've had a couple pops and a beer and, a soda and buy a banner and a T-shirt and have some fun, and you parked and you were all in for $200. You tell me if you could have gone to a Chargers game for that for 4 people, or you tell me if you could go to any other event.
Yeah,
and maybe the Gulls, right?
And the Gulls have done really well on exactly those grounds. That's really the where they've excelled, is that you can go and it's it's not dollar. It doesn't cost $1 to get in, but it's affordable, and you can have a beer and you can be close to the action.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's really our intention, is to provide an entertainment vehicle for, affordable entertainment vehicle for people to see. And if you fall in love with the game, like a number of people, when I had the great opportunity to be a part of a team that launched in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
And in Denver, Colorado, there were, let's say, 3,500 lacrosse players,
yeah,
youth, high school, post-collegiate, all that fun stuff, in Denver at the time that we launched, to the extent now, 15 years later, and obviously you would know who the Denver Outlaws are, and the University of Denver, who have been a national championship team. We've kind of launched a platform in that city to grow the game of lacrosse. Now, where you're talking about 15,000 people over 15 years, I mean, that's amazing growth, playing the game of lacrosse, and we feel very. And the Mammoth had a huge hand and will continue to have a huge hand in the growth of the game. And that, for me, is a legacy that I get to, pat myself on the back that we did that when we were there, and they'll continue to do that there. But as we come to San Diego, trying to figure out how to continue to leave that legacy of people that come to a game, fall in love with it, fall in love with the spectacle that is the National Lacrosse League, or the Major Indoor Lacrosse League, as you remember it.
Yeah.
But falling in love with that spectacle and then turning around and saying, I want my son to play. I want my daughter to play.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter that I never had, I want to meet my wife there, or my husband there, that ultimately I'm going to have a wife and a daughter and son, and they're all going to play. And you know what? So that's a long-term view, right? That's the huge ramp-up period for us. But ultimately, our job is to entertain people.
So you mentioned the Chargers, and I think there was a bit of a layup joke that people were making that was something to the effect of, "Oh, the Chargers have left town, but have no fear, indoor lacrosse is here." And that's fine. It's a good Twitter joke. But I am curious, to what extent did that play into it as far as this being an attractive market?
I don't think it played into it at all.
Really?
I mean, it wasn't when we saw that they left, it was, hey, that's too bad for the city.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you can deny that there's a void left here.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to play on Sundays in the fall.
Yeah.
So we're not replacing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a consciousness, in my opinion, and I'm not a San Diegan, I don't know, but the consciousness of the market is to say, we want to be proud of something. And I think there's a lot of disenfranchised, sports fans in this town. Now, where they choose to spend their dollars in the future, they got dollars back in their pocket because they're not going out to Qualcomm now on Sundays in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
What they choose to do with their family entertainment on Saturdays in the wintertime from, November through, May of 2018, where they choose, all I'm asking is come check us out.
Yeah.
Come check us out. There is no way that we're going to supersede or replace a National Football League franchise in this town. And we don't pretend to want to be. But I will say this, for those people that are pissed off that they lost something in their lives, give us a shot. You may get something else.
Yeah. And so when this news came out, it came coupled with this other loosely connected, that no one really did the work of actually making the connection firm, but some tangential idea that this was an entry point into building a first-class sports arena in downtown San Diego, that the Joe Tai, the owner of this franchise, was also interested. You know, I hesitate to report them because the details were never firmed up, but the report on Sports Talk was that he had already purchased 80 acres of property in downtown San Diego and was going to build an arena that was going to house this team, and then they were going to work on bringing the NBA to town. Is that true?
It sounds like a really cool idea.
Well, it sounds embarrassing to me. I was
fantasy world.
I read it. I was just like, man, how did I miss a guy with $10 billion buying up 80 acres of property in downtown San Diego?
Well, I think smart people would have picked that up. But, 80, I mean, is there 80 acres in downtown Denver and the East Village to buy?
In downtown San Diego? Not contiguously.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, so.
Unless the MTS's bus yard is for sale and they never told anybody.
And let's kind of 80 acres. I think when the Chargers were talking about building downtown, it was a 40-acre piece of land for an NFL stadium, a football stadium. Yeah. So why in the world for, a 16, 17, 18,000 seat state-of-the-art arena would you need 80 acres? That's been a bit of the joke going around some of the guys that are not on the air. But at the end of the day, look, Joe is a great owner and loves the game of lacrosse. I think, wants to be in the National Lacrosse League because he has a passion for the game of lacrosse. Mm-hmm. We found the Valley View Casino Center. We have a great deal with the AEG guys and Ernie Hahn, and we've built a fantastic relationship in a very short period of time with them, and that's going to be our home. And that's for the foreseeable future. That's going to be our home. So, look, having seen these buildings been built over a number of years in this industry, that process takes years. Mm-hmm. It's a 3-year process just to build a building from the time you get the shovel in the ground. So I think for Joe to make that decision in the short period of time that he's been engaged in sports, really since June 1st, I think it's very, very premature. And as I said on a number of shows and a number of interviews yesterday, let's just pump the brakes. Mm-hmm. Give Joe some time to breathe, let us and Joe Tai Sports get our feet underneath us, launch this platform, launch this program, this great lacrosse team that we want to pull off in a great market. And you know what? Who knows what happens?
Yeah. So let's. I know a little bit about the San Diego lacrosse market. I used to coach high school ball for a year out here, but that was a few years ago, and I've kind of stepped away from it a little bit.
You've grown up.
I got this job. They
got a real job.
They pay a lot better than JV lacrosse coach at La Jolla Country Day. And so to be frank, I've lost touch a little bit with the lacrosse community and what's gone on with the game out here. And I think a lot of our listeners won't have any familiarity with the status of lacrosse in San Diego. What do you know? What can you tell us about how many people are playing, how much of a hotbed the region is or isn't? What's lacrosse like in San Diego right now?
I think it's from the research that I've done, I certainly don't pretend to be an expert on youth lacrosse in San Diego. We looked at the market. We looked at obviously demographic information. But the lacrosse community, interestingly enough, I think there's about 67 high school lacrosse programs in the entire state of Colorado.
California.
No, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
67 in the entire state of Colorado.
Okay.
But in Southern California, right below south of Orange County, I think there's more than 75 high school programs on the boys' side in the San Diego area. So this particular market area. So when we were selling, to a community in Colorado, the whole state of Colorado, which is a vast area, right? Denver much smaller, but here in San Diego, it's so in comparison to what's being considered a lacrosse hotbed now in Denver, Colorado, where we hosted the FIL World Championships. We've hosted.
Didn't they do a Final Four out there?
We've done quarterfinals. So
yeah.
the University of Denver is winning national championships, and the Denver Outlaws are playing to crowds of 30,000 people for fireworks games in Sports Authority Field. Massive amounts of people are engaging in the game of lacrosse. But what you're seeing here is you have actually a higher density, higher population of lacrosse players at the high school level. The youth level is interesting, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more and figure out how many players. But we think in comparison to the lacrosse market in Denver, where there's about 15,000 players, that you're about 10,000 here, 10 to maybe 12,000 here. That doesn't include adult post-collegiate or that type of stuff. And we didn't drill down really hard on the youth level of who's doing, because it's really fragmented, right? Lacrosse is a fragmented marketplace, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things. They're kind of engaged in all sorts of stuff. So, U.S. Lacrosse has given us good information about the San Diego market, and it's robust and it's growing, and we think that we can be a catalyst to help that continue.
The couple things I noticed when I was still in it were, one, the level of coaching was pretty high because you had a lot of East Coast transplants that were.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, anybody who lives in San Diego knows that you meet a lot of East Coast transplants in general, and it was especially true if you had, people who played high level lacrosse who moved out here and they're looking for a gig when they first got here, and they started coaching lacrosse. So you had good coaching at the youth and high school levels. And the other thing I noticed about it was that it had kind of aligned itself with surf culture. That it was that you could buy a lacrosse stick at a surf shop in some places and that sort of thing. Which that was 10 years ago. I don't know if any of that's still the case, but those were a couple of my observations.
Well, interestingly enough, and I don't know much about that particular culture. Living in Denver, there's not a ton of surfing.
Not a lot. Yeah.
Well, you can try and find it. Indoor surfing, I think. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know a ton about how the culture connects. But I think that, in my opinion, right, sports, lifestyle, they all interconnect. And as people enjoy, and they consume in different ways, right? So my big thing is participation doesn't necessarily always translate to consumerism. So if you look at the UFC, for instance, as a case study, there's not a whole lot of youth UFC leagues out there that they're drawing upon to have people watch their product, right? So if you draw that paradigm and say, well, why is that, right? It's not a grassroots effort. It's about an entertainment spectacle.
Or the other way, people have been saying for 30 years that, well, every kid in America plays soccer when they're 5 years old. Soccer is going to be the spectator sport of the next generation, and it hasn't really ever happened.
Well, that's a better example on the other side, right? Yeah. The trickle down, trickle up theory.
Yeah.
But if you look at soccer economics, you are starting to see a number of those kids that played as 12, 13-year-olds where they stopped playing. That kind of point of where everybody says, "Yeah, I don't want to play soccer anymore. I'm gonna stop." Lacrosse players keep playing because it's much more fun. But sorry, soccer guys. Anyway, no, but lacrosse guys keep playing, so that you keep on playing and playing and playing. But the point of the matter is, you're starting to see MLS and soccer gain more traction, right? With the value of their franchises. Every city is now scrambling for an MLS franchise. And so the interesting process is that as we look at those people that are aging up, they're beginning to become supporters. They're starting to have kids, and they're starting to spend their money in a soccer culture, right? So lacrosse is coming that way, but we have to be, as a forward-facing consumer brand, that we're going to be in the entertainment business in this marketplace. It's a top-down, bottom-up approach. I mean, we have to be in a situation where, we're selling to people that are non-lacrosse people that want to be fans, that want to engage in an entertainment vehicle and come out. And we had a conversation with a lady today who booked tickets who, her husband or fiance has a connection to the game because he played back east 20 years ago. And she wants to get him tickets because he's loved the game for a long time. And this is a great outlet for that. That's awesome. But ultimately, we're going to have to find people that are, boxing fans or football fans or soccer fans that, you know what, they can engage in our sport and have fun. And I don't think it's necessary. You don't have to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
You can be a Gulls fan and you can be an NLL lacrosse fan in San Diego.
Yeah, I
Because
certainly
we're
always went to Orioles games and Baltimore Thunder
Absolutely,
games.
and
right?
we're not getting into your pocket to take all your money to do that. Maybe if you're an NHL season ticket holder and you got to spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for seats in an NHL building for a season ticket, 40-game season ticket package, we're not that. We're 9 games, and if we get into the playoffs and do well, it's 10 or 12. The Gulls are 30. Like you can afford to go to all these things and have a ton of fun. It's kind of like a sampling, right? You get to have the sampler at Denny's. I mean, it's easy, so you can go do all of them. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think we have to be top down and bottom up. So we have to appeal to a lacrosse fan, right, in the bottom up approach. But we also have to go find a lot of people to come to our games and then ultimately build the game from there.
All right, last question. So lacrossesandiego.com is your online home. What's going to be the team name?
Can't tell you.
What about the process?
Well, we're working on the process. So it's an interesting process. We're going through branding right now and looking at logos and trying to figure out how we're going to move forward. I think one of the things we like about it is maybe an online contest with existing logos that people can pick from.
Yeah.
It might be that we just really have an epiphany and love what we have and we move forward and pick the name, and then ultimately, kind of have people look around at logos and colors and get a sense of feedback in forum groups and focus groups that can tell us a little bit more information about what they like and what they don't like. But that's probably going to be announced sometime October, November of this year, so later this year, and we'll have a brand name, and it'll be fun, it'll be cool, and I think it'll be something that is uniquely San Diego and engaging for everybody.
Steve Govett, welcome to San Diego.
Thank you.
All right, man.
Now back to the San Diego Downtown Partnership sponsored interview with Keith of Ace Parking. And you take customer service seriously. I have heard you've been known to answer client emails at 3 a.m.
I believe strongly that if you're going to be a privately run organization that you take pride in and that you live and breathe, then it's a 24/7 business. And so the type of emails or correspondence that I'm responding to are everything from a customer asking about, how do I engage with this type of parking facility in terms of making a reservation? Or I was always taught by my grandfather, and I think this was a Navy thing, that, hey, no matter, even if it's 6:30 on a Friday evening and a client calls or emails you, you need to respond that evening. It's not okay for it to wait to the next day or later, because they're trusting you. They're trusting to work with you. And so that's just another core value that I believe runs true, and I think is part of that San Diego mentality about both being a community mind base, but showing our true might of being living on the international stage.
So Keith, speaking of being community minded, what sort of social programs or issues is your company most interested in?
Well, being from San Diego and having a business of the size and scope of Ace Parking, I believe strongly that great corporations make an impact in the communities they do business in. And so one of the things that touched my family, as it's touched so many within not just the Ace Parking community, but San Diego and the global community, is cancer. And so after an experience that my family had with cancer and working through that, we at Ace Parking created an initiative that every October we actually turn our blue signs around town pink, and we call it our Park for Pink campaign. And each October we take a good portion of our parking proceeds and then partner with various community organizations to both help financially and promote their good doing through our Park for Pink campaign. So last year we connected with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, LLS of San Diego, and partnered there with both Scripps Hospital the year before. And in 2017, it looks like we're going to partner with Pedal for the Cause, Padres Pedal for the Cause.
And your office is close by. It's downtown here in San Diego, and you've always been located downtown. And obviously, parking lots are part of the urban design. So what do you think makes a vibrant, exciting downtown?
One of the reasons that Ace Parking has called downtown San Diego its corporate headquarters for almost 70 years is that we believe strongly that great cities, great counties, great communities have strong, vibrant downtowns. And in order to be part of a strong, vibrant downtown and parlay that into a strong, vibrant business, you need to have boots on the ground and be part of that and activating that downtown. And so us being downtown and integrating in with the communities with which our customers are, I think gives us a strong understanding and advantage of what our customers and consumers want out of us. I believe great communities and great downtowns are activated. They find different ways to activate based upon the time of day, whether it be a Monday through Friday morning, more business ritual, to an evening time of a consumer coming down and enjoying different experiences, or whether they be in our market, a consumer trade show and how the downtown community shows. It's evident that we have a homeless epidemic going on, and so instead of turning my blind eye and saying, well, it's time get my team members and employees into a safer environment, let's move out of downtown, I'm actually saying, how can we double down? How can we be involved in this? And how can we help a neighbor helping neighbor and be part of a solution? And so while the community and everyone's talking about affordable housing solutions, that is awesome and is needed, but the fact of the matter, if you're homeless and you're destitute, you don't even have money for affordable housing. And so how are we changing that conversation to say, how do we triage the situation so that we can get people off of the streets and into emergency shelters, so you can have both that approach as well as the approach of affordable housing? And so I believe of being a San Diego-based company and having the opportunity to be part of the community, then it's my responsibility to be part of a leader in the community and help understand and build solutions towards solving these problems together with the various factions that can have real-world impacts.
The Downtown San Diego Partnership is a leading advocate for the economic vitality and growth of downtown San Diego. The Downtown Partnership's many members are committed to creating a vital and vibrant urban center that benefits the entire San Diego region. Visit downtownsandiego.org for more information on its programs, or call 619-234-0201 to learn about the many benefits of becoming a member.
Today's show was produced by me, Scott Lewis, and Andrew Keatts. It was recorded by Adam Greenfield in the great Voice of San Diego podcast studio in downtown San Diego. And that's where we also produce Good Schools for All and Kinsey Moreland's Culture Cast. Thank you also to our partners at AM 600 Kogo.
The Voice of San Diego podcast network is a product of Voice of San Diego, a nonprofit news organization. Search iTunes for VOSD Podcast Network to subscribe to all of our shows.